Hello, my name's Paul Kiley and I'd like to introduce you to a hobby of mine that I've had for probably about 13 or 14 years, and that hobby is jewellery making. Now, this is a piece that I'm working on at the moment. This is going to be a signet ring in time. I don't know if you can see that properly, I don't know if it's focusing. Hopefully the action force picking it all up. But yeah, you need quite a few tools, quite a bit of an investment actually. But I'll talk you through most of the equipment as we're using it. So yeah, I'm 57 years old and I was looking for an hobby about 13, 14 years ago. And my wife mentioned, well, why don't you ever go at jewellery making? And I thought, well, as good as any. So I went onto YouTube, as you do, started looking at videos, and we've progressed to where we are these days. Like I say, it's not a cheap hobby. You need quite a few tools, but you can start with basic tools. You don't have to spend what I've spent. In recent times, or should I say in recent years, I've had a bit of training from a master jeweller who resides in Australia called Peter Keep. He's actually from Manchester, from Cheadle, and he comes over here once a year on a working holiday and he books courses in. The ones I've been on a couple of times are up in Lancaster at the Rachel Hearn Jewellery School. I'll pop links below, or maybe pop them up on screen to their websites. But if anybody's interested in this, I suggest that you really do have a go at it, because it's so satisfying. It really is. So, right, let's get on with it. I'll talk you through what I'm doing the best I can. Bear in mind, I am not a professional jeweller. I'm a lorry driver. Peter and Rachel have taught me so much over the last few years, techniques and how to do things, and it does take quite a bit of practice. So like I say, if anybody fancies it and they want to have a go, if you comment below, I'll tell you, or I'll try and help you with the basic tools that you need to get started. So right, let's get on with it. This is the components we're going to use. I'm going to use this piece of 3.3mm square silver, which we're going to make a bezel for this obsidian stone. I'm hoping this is focusing. I haven't used this camera for this sort of thing before, so I'm hoping it's going to work. And there's this piece of D-shaped sterling silver, which is, I'll tell you the size, that's 1.53 by 2.35, which will make us a nice size ring. First thing we need to do is to roll this so it's thinner, so we can make a bezel for that. So we'll anneal it first and then we'll get on with rolling process. Just use a creme brulee torch for this. I have actually got this is the Smith's mini torch with some page torch tips on it. They usually come with these, but I've got an oxygen concentrator connected to this and it tends not to work so well with the original tips, so I had to buy those. They come like that from America. Quite a decent investment, but they are very good. And that's Page Tools. So I'll see if I can do this without melting my camera. This is just they say it's charcoal, but I don't think it's actually charcoal, this one. We'll just anneal it till it goes cherry red, and then we'll quench it. That should be enough. Hopefully you can see that's cherry red. You wait for it to go black, and then we can quench it. If you quench it too soon, it can shock the metal. and I think it'll harden it back up again, which we don't want. And we just quench it in water. This is actually rainwater. And that's ready for rolling. So we'll get on with that. This is the Durston Agile C130 rolling mill. Quite an expensive bit of kit, this, but essential if you want to be precise in your jewellery making. It's got D-shaped rollers here, and these are square shaped and obviously flat. It's got 5-to-1 gearing, so if you turn that 5 times, it turns once. In fact, I think I could do again this a bit of a clean before we start, so I'll be back in a minute. Hopefully that looks a little bit cleaner. I haven't made any jewellery for a while because I've been recommissioning an old motorbike. That's my son's Street Triple there, 765R. That's my Royal Enfield Interceptor, beautiful bike. The Yamaha Tracer over there, 900, but I've been recommissioning this beauty, 1990 CBR 600. But anyway, I digress. Back to the rolling mill. I've had to place the camera behind the rolling mill because I've got nothing to stand it on, but hopefully it'll give you an idea of what we're doing here. So basically, you just feed the silver in until it goes in, and then just turn. And obviously it compresses it, makes it longer. Just keep turning the handle about 15 to 20 minutes. And just keep feeding the silver through. I will get a better setup than this. I may have to invest in a proper camera setup. So if I'm going to be doing this properly, then at least you'll get a better perspective. I'll get it on a tripod, and then we can work a bit easier, a bit more efficiently. But yeah, that's basically all you're doing. It just gets longer and longer, obviously, because it's stretching it. But this is a great bit of kit, this. I'm not saying you've got to spend what I spent. I mean, this rolling mill was I think about 750 quid. And they're a lot more than that now. Because as everybody's aware, since COVID, everything's shot up in price. So that'll be ready for annealing again. This measures now around about, if you can see that, probably can't actually, about 1.9. So we'll run it through the flats. And we need it to be about 2.5 mil. So if you just tighten your rolls onto the metal, pull the metal out and then run it through, but it must go through straight. Otherwise it'll bend off. Right, we've got all those components there. We've got a piece of sheet. We've got the metal that we're going to use to make the bezel. It's a little bit thick, that, but it'll make a nice chunky bezel. That's for the ring shank itself, and obviously the stone. So we'll get on with making the ring. I'm hoping this is working. Basically what we're going to do first, I'm going to level the end of this strip. I'm going to turn it with some half round pliers when I can find them. I'm going to turn it. What you do, you turn the metal and not the pliers. Gives you a nice consistent curve. We need it to fit inside that, so as you can see that's a bit tight. So we can open it back up again till it fits. better. It doesn't have to be perfect at this stage because we can stretch it and reduce it as we need to. As you can see, that is now fitting inside there. That is now fitting inside there. So we'll continue around there, and then we'll cut it off and then we'll solder it up. That's going to be a bit big, but you can cut it short. Cut it about here. I'll get something to show you. And cut it around about that position. And then if it's too small, we can stretch it. So we'll cut it slightly short. I'm hoping this is coming out all right. Close the gap as best we can. Use 2 pair of pliers for that. Try and get it to overlap like that. Then when you bring it back, you've got a nice tight joint. And if it's not tight, like that one isn't, you can run a saw blade through it. But don't put any wax on it. I know it sounds disgusting, but you can lick it, which lubricates the blade. Just go through nice and carefully and just keep it moving. And hopefully you saw that close up then. So we get a nice tight joint. Also trying to keep it as round as possible. And no steps. Like that. Now we'll get that soldered. Now I'm going to set everything up on the charcoal block. This that you can't see off camera, this is borax cone and dish mixed with a little bit of water. I actually use rainwater. I've got a water butt round the back and I use rainwater for this. And we flux all the joints, keep them clean, and that buzzing noise that you can probably hear in the background is the oxygen concentrator, which I've just switched on obviously to get some oxygen, so we can mix it with the gas and use the Smith's mini torch. This is hard solder, just need a little snippet, no bigger than that. You flux the solder as well. This is the Smith's mini torch in action. A nice sharp flame, melt the solder, pick it up with a pick, and eat the entire piece. Just pop the solder on, it'll flow into the joint like that didn't, and I'm going to leave that in because that shows you that you need to heat both sides exactly the same, and I didn't do that. I said I haven't done this for a few weeks because I've been quite busy sorting that on right, and obviously I've got a bit out of practice, so I'll pop a bit more solder on. This time get the heat transfer correct, or the heat balance correct. That's better. You see it flow straight into that joint hopefully. Make sure it's gone all the way through, which it has. You can quench and pickle that. The pickle, which I'll show you now, is just a ordinary crock pot with a special chemical that you can buy. And that chemical is, if I can find it, I'm not sure what I've done with it, to be honest, but it basically removes all oxides. I'll pop it up on screen when I can find it. And that cleans the metal. So we'll wait for that to finish, then we'll get on to the next stage. This is it. Vitex Safety Pickle Salts for removing oxides from gold, silver and copper alloys. Caution or hazard causes serious eye damage, which it will. Pretty nasty stuff. But this is the safety stuff. Right, we're out of the pickle. And as you can probably see even by looking at it, that's not going to fit in there, is it? So the next stage is to make this round, and then we'll make it fit. And to do that we're going to use a mandrel. Well, hopefully you can see this. This is a tapered mandrel steel. I'll do a bit of a clean actually. A few rust spots on it, I'll get on with that. I'm going to pop it on here. It's a nice chasing hammer. I'm going to make it nice and round. I'll turn this off because we don't need that for the time being. I'll make it nice and round. If you push it against it like that, if you keep turning it, keep turning the bezel, should I say, it won't take on the shape of the mandrel, which is obviously tapered. That is almost in. What I like to do next is get some of my needle files, the half round Swiss cut needle file, and I'll file it on the inside until it fits. I'm sorry if my fingers are in the way. And what this does obviously smooths all the inside out. Because there's that solder joint, there could be a bit of a lump on that. That might be what's stopping it from going in. You're just fine tuning it until it fits. Try and get it as perfect as we can. Because it all helps later for setting. The better it fits, the easier it is to set. Right, that is now fitting inside the bezel. As you can see, it's a perfect fit. Make it a lot easier for setting that later when we come to set it. It's a little bit high, as in high here, you know, at the sides, but we can deal with that later. We can reduce the height of that. Another tip I'll give you as well is, which I haven't done today, that's make sure you cut your nails. Because mine are a bit long and they're getting in the way. I'll attend to that for the next video. We'll see how successful this one is first. Another guy I've watched as well on YouTube is a jeweller called Chris Bilton. And he's very good as well. He's made some really high-end stuff, a lot of celebrities apparently. Now lives in Japan. This bezel is going to be soldering onto this flat piece of plate, and obviously when the stone goes in, it's got a backing, so we'll do that. Another good tip as well is to get one of your buff sticks, which is basically a piece of wood with some emery paper wrapped around it, and make sure that the surface that you're going to solder onto is clean, because then the flux will stick to it a lot better. Let's clean both sides. We don't need to clean both sides. I'm doing this just so that I can choose which one to use, and I think it's going to be, just a sec, make sure I can get that off. Yeah, it's going to be this side. It's going to be this side. So we're back over to the soldering mat. We'll turn this concentrator on, put a drop of water in here so we can make some more flux. Now the general rule of thumb is to use hard solder as much as possible. I mean, we could use medium for this, but if we're careful and don't get too much heat into it, we should be able to use hard again. So we'll have a go with that, and we'll flux. What I always do, I always flux the entire plate and just pop that on top. And obviously the flux transfers onto the piece. So yeah, we'll attempt to do hard solder again, and hopefully this doesn't go wrong and embarrass me. I'll cut a few pieces of hard solder. If you get it too hot, you can open that joint up, so we'll start soldering at this side. I will start heating at this side, keep away from that. And what I always do for this, you can pick your solder up and place it against it. Like that. So we'll get some heat on it and we'll see how we go on. Slow and steady. These solder chips might bounce about a bit with heat, water in the flux. Basically we want to heat it up nice and steady. Hopefully you can see this. Yeah, you should be able to. Nice fluffy flame. Hopefully you saw that flow all the way around. There's a little bit more on there. Oftentimes, you know, the solder sticks to the pick, just like it is now. I'm just lifting it a touch because these ceramic soldering mats can soak a lot of heat up. And obviously if you lift it, the heat can get through it better. Yep, that's it. Quench and pickle that, and then we'll cut it out. Another tip I'll give you as well is always dry your work. So it's been anywhere near water, if you put it near metal, obviously it's going to cause rust. Right, so we need to cut this bezel when I can get it going. I'll use a thicker blade. I am going to leave all these little bits in that you should cut out, just to show people that things don't always go to plan. As I said, I'm not a professional. You've got to be very gentle with these blades as well, because believe me, they do snap very easily. So if you're going to do this, order plenty. I get all my stuff from Cooks and Gold in Birmingham. They're not the cheapest, but they have got absolutely everything. But there are others. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. Now the blade's got stuck. Just try and keep a little bit of wax on it. That's back into the scrap. And we just need to smooth all this off. That's a bit rough. You can buy these bezels ready done, but where's the fun in that? Much rather make stuff myself. I'll just take this opportunity as well to lower the height. It's quite high. I don't want it too high because it'll cover too much of the stone. And that's the highlight. So if we give it an emery, make it nice and smooth. This is just a rough cleaning. Yeah, it's only since I started having training off Peter Keep on his website that I've started paying a lot more attention to detail, and it really does make a difference. It really does, especially to the finished article, because if there's anything slightly off, you tend to find that your eye picks it up, goes straight to it, and it does. It can be the slightest thing. It can be a claw that's slightly off, a claw that's in slightly wrong position, something that's not quite straight, and your eye does definitely pick it up. What I'll do, since we've been filing, I'll just scrape the inside of this with my scalpel just to get rid of the flashing, so that will stop the stone from going in. That goes in there then, but we're not going to put it in yet, because we'll not get it out. We'll have to drill an hole in the bottom and get it out, which won't be a big deal like, but right, we're going, we're making the ring. Just realised when I started I didn't give you the size of the stone. It's 8.26, which will make a nice nice ring. Right, so we're going to use this 1.5 by 2.3mm half round wire, and we'll make the ring. Flatten the end off first. Do the same process as we did last time. And we'll make it a size N, which just happens to be my wife's size. That's probably going to be too small. In fact, I know it is. I can stretch it up here. What I always do, make it a size smaller. Always make it a size smaller, then you can tap it up. Plus there's gaps, look. So it's going to adjust it anyway. Mark it with a scalpel. And we'll cut it. Overlap it and snap it back. That joint nice and tight with no steps. And we'll hard solder it. I'm hoping you're not getting too much ambient noise. If you are, then I'll have to look at that for future videos. I do find it a bit awkward sometimes with this oxygen concentrator. I say I'm going to leave all the stuff in that I should be cutting out. I'm not going to cut anything. I'll transition stuff, obviously to try and make the video a bit smoother, but if I make any mistakes, I'm not going to remove them. Because like I said earlier, things very rarely go to plan straight away. Or if you always heat the back of the ring first, so I'm just making sure I'm not melting my camera, then it stops the joint from opening up. Then you go to the joint, heat it till the flux goes clear, and then when you pop the solder on, it'll flow. When you drop it, put the solder on like that, and then heat both sides of the joint. And it'll flow straight into that joint if you get the heat balance right. A bit more gas in it. Get a hotter flame. There you go, straight into that joint. Hopefully you can see that. We're out of the pickle, onto the mandrel, and that is just a size under that we need. So if we tap it up, try and tap it up. I'm working a bit awkward with this camera. Try and tap it up. It's just a light file, we're not really taking any metal off. Just getting rid of all the tool marks. So pay attention to detail, and it'll pay dividends at the end. As hopefully you'll see, assuming nothing goes wrong. What I always tend to do is leave the inside to later so that I can see where the solder joint is. So if you make a good job of cleaning it up, you won't be able to find it. If you heat it up, it goes like a straw colour. And that's opposite. So we're going to fit the bezel opposite. What we need to do first is to flatten, put a flat spot right where that is. Obviously you don't want the flat spot to be wider than the bezel. You want the bezel to sit square like a letter T, not slightly off. So we'll make that correction. That's going to sit like that. And obviously, because it's flat, it'll hold itself in position like that. You stand up, look directly down, make sure it's bang in the middle. Make sure it is a letter T, and it is. We'll flux everything. And we'll get it soldered up. Spend a bit of time getting this right, and then it'll look bang on when you've done it. Not like I used to do, rush it just to get it done. Right, this time we're not going to take any chances, we're going to use easy solder. We don't want it falling apart at this stage. So we'll cut a few small pieces. Flux the solder as well. Could actually place it on here if you prefer. Final check before we hit it with the heat. Yeah, that looks right. So we're back to the Smith's mini torch with a nice fluffy flame. Why not get it to light? Ready with a solder pick just in case. Things will move around a bit as the flux dries. Let's leave them fall. We can deal with that. The flux goes like a glue when it heats up. And we'll gently heat it. And that solder will pull straight through that joint. It's quite a large joint actually, is this. So I might need to add a bit more. We'll make that decision when it's flowed. Yeah, I'll pop a bit more on just to be on the safe side, I think. Yeah, looks good. So we'll quench and pickle it and we'll have a look. Right, that's it out of the pickle. So we've got a big clean up now. So I've got a bit of 2000 emery wrapped around a half round needle file. We'll clean the underneath of the bezel up. And clean the underneath of the bezel up. Make it nice and shiny, ready for polishing. We get 1000 grit buff stick, just clean everything else up. Remember, we're after it looking as good as possible. You don't have to go too mad with solder because it does clean up pretty nice. Pretty resilient metal, especially sterling. Yeah, this emery is a very important stage because this is what removes all your tool marks and little dents and what have you. Hiding mistakes, in other words, probably. Just get it as smooth as possible. And it pays dividends at the end when you come to polish. Because believe me, when you polish, if there's any little marks, they will show up. I'm just hoping this has come out. I did a little example video on my YouTube channel when I first started this Creations in Silver, but it was just a little short thing just to test water for me mainly. Hopefully, I mean, this has been a bit more in depth, or a lot more in depth even, so hopefully it's come out alright. I've also got these Matador sanding discs. This is a 600 grade, and that goes on the micromotor. We can use that to do the inside of the ring. You can also use a split mandrel. I've got one of those as well. You just have to obviously cut your own bits of sandpaper up and pop it on that. These are a game changer, and they seem to last quite a while as well. Just get quite hot when you're doing this, so you do have to watch your fingers. Usually cross direction as well, but I can't find. I've got a little piece of doweling with some sandpaper on, but I can't find it for a minute, so I'll just do it with my fingers for this example. Just cross direction, because if you polish, when you only emery one way, if you polish in the same direction, it puts drag lines in, and you can see them, just puts it off a little bit, makes it look a bit worse. Right, next stage. Usually pop it in tumbler, but we're not going to do that this time. I'll show you the tumbler another time. We're going to use a bit of hyphen, which is this metal polish, on a polishing mop, and we're going to give it a good clean up. Including the sides. I'd usually spend a lot more time on this if it were for a customer, because I have done in the past quite a bit of commission work, which can sometimes be a bad thing for me, because you know, when you work a full-time job 5 days a week, I find it very, very difficult to obviously do my job and this. So I try not to take too much commission work on. But I have done it in the past. I used to make bezels for a woman that made ashes in glass. Quite interesting. I've not done any of that for a few years, since COVID really. I think she's actually gone out of business. Not heard anything from her, so imagine that's probably the case. Right, we'll pop that into ultrasonic and then we'll look at setting it. Right, this is my ultrasonic, Allendale Ultrasonics I got this from. We'll drop that in there. Look at all that muck coming off that, if you can see it. That's all that polish. Now we'll leave it in there for 5 minutes or so and then we'll have a look at setting it. Right, we're out to the ultrasonic. First thing we're going to do is we're going to thin the top edge of this off and make it easier to set. So we're just going to run a needle file around it just to thin that top edge. And this is quite thick, this, so I'm hoping that we're going to be alright here with this. I don't usually do them this thick. Obviously you've got to try not to catch the shoulders while you're doing this. What this is doing, it's giving us an edge to push onto the stone. I'm sorry if I'm telling people how to suck eggs here, but this is, I'm assuming that you've never seen anybody make anything before. But this is quite basic. Might not look it, but it is. So yeah, we'll get that thinned off pretty nice. Make it a lot easier to push over, and we're going to use a very, very noisy tool. So I won't be able to speak to you. If I did, you won't hear me anyway. I'll show you that in a minute. Yeah, now it looks something like that. If you can see that. It's got like a beveled edge on it. I'll pop the stone in, hopefully it'll fit. And it does. So it looks like that. But obviously that is not set. That could drop out. It won't because it's tight, but it could. So we'll change this. And then we'll set it. Now this tool is a Dremel engraver. You can get these on eBay for about 25-30 quid. And it's got little tips in. I actually bought these from Peter Keep. But you can get all different. If you get some 3mm tool steel, you can make your own tips. Now this one's got a very, very slight, I don't know if you can see that, a very slight angle on it. And we'll set it on number 2.5 first, and we're going to hammer the edges of that around that stone. So get ready for some noise. I'll try and reduce this in edit. Really is a great tool, this. And it's as easy as that. So hopefully you can see that is perfectly set and it's tight. That will never come out, that, unless you cut it out. Now, this is just a collection of burnishes that I've made over years. What we need now is something with a very thin point on it, something like that, into a pin vise. And we just need to smooth around the edges. And that burnishes the last little bit of metal right up against the stone. And just gives it a really nice bright cut. You don't have to press too hard. And obviously you're doing it away from the stone so you don't scratch the stone. Something like that. Something along the lines of that. And then to finish off, you get a brownie and a greenie. And these are just abrasive wheels. I'm just going to very, very carefully, without touching the stone, just clean this bezel edge up, get rid of all those hammer marks. Be very, very careful doing this, especially with this brown wheel, because it will scratch the stone. Don't ask me how I know. And this one, the green one, I put a really nice polish on. You can go right up to the stone with this. Hopefully you can see this. You notice I've got connection between my fingers as well. That helps to keep this steady. Yeah, this green one won't scratch the stone. I mean, it's still good practice not to touch the stone, but you can go right up against it. Right, give it a final polish and we're done. Well, there you go, folks. Set, polished and finished. Sorry Peter, I've pinched your end tagline there, sorry, I apologise. But it is set, polished and finished. So I hope you enjoyed that. So thanks for watching. Right, I hope you enjoyed that. Just give you an insight into how to make jewellery. So if you've enjoyed this, I'd appreciate it if you pop a like on and maybe consider subscribing. If these videos that I make get even one person, just one, to have a go at this hobby, then I'll be very happy, because it is a fantastic hobby. Like I've mentioned, it's not cheap, but it can be as cheap or as expensive as you want it to be. So yeah, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll try and make other videos as soon as I get a chance. So yeah, once again, thank you. I'll catch you next time. Cheers.